My name's Leo and I'm a boat builder and a sailor, and with the help of my friends, colleagues and supporters, I'm on a mission to rebuild and restore the 112-year-old classic sailing yacht Tally-Ho. Now, after weeks and weeks of work, a lot of thought, a lot of preparation and a lot of amazing input from Doug, the Keel maestro, we are finally ready to actually pour Tally-Ho's new, or rather recast, repurposed lead keel. Now, we're all excited, we're all a little bit terrified, but we think we've prepared enough and we just got to go for it and keep our fingers crossed. So the first thing we've got to do is just raise up the pot to the correct level, get it blocked up, and then we can get the burner on and start loading it up with lead.
It looks like it's too low still.
Now, this whole keel operation started because we were trying to increase the size of the original ballast keel. So yes, we are increasing the size from the original design very slightly, and the reason for that comes down to really the purpose of a ballast keel, which is to keep a boat upright, to provide stability and to counteract the force of the wind on the sails, which is trying to tip the boat over. So the weight of the lead on the bottom of the boat is pulling it back upright. Now, in order to maintain its original design sailing characteristics, the boat needs to maintain the same center of gravity. The center of gravity is a theoretical point somewhere inside the boat, which is the center point of all of the weight of the boat combined. And the center of gravity is affected by the mass or weight of different objects, and also by how far away those objects are from the center of the boat. So for example, if you put a heavy weight on the deck of the boat, it might raise the center of gravity slightly, but if you put that same weight on the top of the mast, it will raise the center of gravity a lot and really reduce the stability. So Tally-Ho needs a certain amount of ballast in order to sail properly, but here's the problem. Originally, she was designed with a 4.75 ton exterior ballast keel and 8 tons of interior ballast. So that's a huge amount of lead actually inside the boat as ballast. However, in order to give ourselves headroom inside the boat, we've lowered the sole. So that means we've reduced the bilge space, which is where the ballast would be kept. We've also had to add tanks into that space in order to use the boat for the long distance cruising that I plan to do with her. So we have physically less space inside the boat for interior ballast, which is one of the reasons we're moving some of that weight onto the exterior ballast keel. We're still going to have interior ballast, but we won't need so much of it. We will be able to use that interior ballast for trimming the boat to make sure she sits on her lines properly and is the correct weight overall.
Oh my god, there's so much steam.
So today's the day we're hoping to actually pour the keel. So we've got the burners going, we've got the pot hot, we're putting lead in, and we've all got our fingers crossed. How's it looking there?
It's starting to melt the big chunk.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Cool.
it's like eating away at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So So in terms of numbers, the original designed ballast keel was actually 4.75 tons. That's what's written on the drawings. That's about 10,000 pounds. But we actually calculated that the original keel that they made was closer to 6 tons, so quite a bit larger than designed, and that's around 13,000 pounds. Now we are increasing it an extra 1.7 tons to 7.7 tons, which is just under 17,000 pounds. So that's what we're going to be pouring. We're going to be pouring around 17,000 pounds. And there has been a bit of guesswork in working out the best amount to increase the keel, and it's also a compromise of not wanting to change the design too much and so on. I was initially very hesitant to change the design at all, but after taking a lot of advice, I was convinced that this is a good idea. The other reason I've opted to increase it more rather than less is that it actually wouldn't be so difficult later on to actually cut the bottom part of the keel away and reduce its size. That sounds like a pain, but actually with the right tools it wouldn't be very difficult. So in a few years, if we find that this approach isn't ideal, we can actually change it.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Doug Brower, sometimes known as a keel builder. That was a career for a long, long time. I've always endeavored to make any keel in one pour, one continuous pour, and my MO is to pour it as fast as possible and as cold as possible. Any temperature over what's absolutely minimal is just time that we have to spend waiting for the lead to solidify. The total quantity is around 17,000 pounds of keel, so we'll be melting somewhere around 20,000 pounds of total lead. So we heat the lead up to somewhere around 650 degrees, skim off the dross as well as we can in the pot, let the temperature stabilize, and the final arbiter of temperature is what the lead looks like and feels like in the pot. When it's starting to just on the upper area of the pot where it's a little bit cooler, if it's starting to adhere to the pot, stick to the pot, it's getting very close to being the temperature that I want to pour it, because it's starting to already solidify.
What's your experience in terms of the health and safety risks of working with lead?
Sure. Well, it's certainly a good question and a very valid concern, because I'm very concerned about my own health, and over the 35 years of doing keel work, I became quite comfortable with the safety measures that I adopted. I wore respiratory protection. I gained confidence in that, not only through my own experience of having my blood lead level checked over the years, but also from outside. OSHA came and checked out my operation. What they were concerned about was lead fumes, lead particulates in the air in my work area. So they had these little air pumps that sucked ambient air through little paper filters, and they planted one up here by my neck. They planted several around on my equipment right near my lead melting pot, and then they sucked air through those for a full 8-hour shift, took them off and analyzed the paper filters for any residue of lead, any kind of lead contamination. And that's where they came back with a report that I would be under their guidelines doing that every day of the week. So part of why there's not a lot of lead in the air is because simply melting lead doesn't create fumes. Lead is melted at around 620 degrees. I might get it as high as 650, 680, but it doesn't begin to fume until something around 1,000 degrees. So there's quite a safety margin there. The other safety concern, of course, is large quantities of molten metal. We're using a pot that I used for a long time. We checked it out for integrity. It seems to be sound, and we've beefed it up a bit, and I think it'll satisfy the need of safety from a molten lead perspective.
Well, it's 5:30 p.m. We've been heating the pot all day and putting lead chunks in, and we're getting pretty close. The pot's probably 2/3 to 3/4 full, and we're aiming to get the level so it's just 6 inches below the top of the pot. And that way we know we'll have plenty of lead in there to fill the keel, and then some as a safety margin. So after a lot of thought and consideration, we have decided to pour the keel inside the shed, in between the two wooden boats there. And although that might seem crazy, we actually think it's the safest option because if there is some kind of spillage, that's not going to present a serious fire risk inside the shed if we are careful and aware of what's going on. But it would be a much easier cleanup and much less chance of contamination inside the shed on the clean hard floor than it would be out here. It's also going to be much easier to move the finished keel around if we start with it inside the shed. Now it may seem that we could be being nonchalant in some areas of health and safety and risk analysis, but you guys don't see the discussion, the consultation, the analysis that actually goes on behind the scenes here in working out the safest way to do things and in actually managing our risks intelligently. So although a lot of that is common sense, we're also lucky enough to be working with a master at this trade, Doug, who's been working with lead for decades, and everyone else on the team here is used to working with heavy loads and hazardous substances. Anyone planning on doing their own lead pours, I would encourage to do your own very careful research and try and get in touch with an expert. And there are some things which aren't so obvious. One thing that we've learned during this process is that small pieces of lead and lead chips can be ingested by animals, dogs, pets, things like that, which can poison them. So we've been extremely careful to clear up after ourselves, and there's actually been a lot of thought put into all aspects of this operation to try and ensure that it goes smoothly, that no one gets hurt, and that we don't risk contamination or property damage. That said, it's also a lot of fun, and we're all pretty excited to go play with the shiny lead.
Hey, big shout out to Megan Reichenbacher, who was here for our first lead pouring experience. Woo-wee!
What time is it, Patty?
It's za time. 7:57, coming up on 8 p.m. In the yard.
What's the status with the pot lead right now?
We've got 6.5 inches room for cream at the top, and I think we're gonna throw in one more lucky piece, and then we're just gonna open the freaking valve and watch the great river of justice come through the stream here and fill our hearts and our minds.
Well, what else have we got to fill before that?
Our stomachs. Yeah. Fuel. There's Doug. What's Doug got to say about it? We're just commenting on the pizza. 2 thumbs up from Doug. Yes. Classic. The old double thumber.
Looking good.
Doug approved.
Yeah, it's even up my alley.
Buddy, how do you feel?
I just, words can't describe. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror at myself for the first time. I'm looking through the hourglass of our lives. The window into mine own soul. Look at that. What the F? $6.25.
Sure. Fire on?
Yeah, fire on. Look at that. Whoa. Cool.
Well, we did it. We're still working on it, but it's in there. It didn't spill anywhere. Guys, how are we feeling? We're feeling really, really good. I'm so relieved. I had full trust in Doug, but even so, at every stage, there was just a lot of anxiety and fear if this thing was to go horribly wrong. what would happen. It's very level at the top pretty much, but there's just some, very slightly higher at one end than the other, and so what we're doing is just letting it cool down at the ends and then sort of filling in the area in the middle, and just continually sort of working the top to get the dross off and make sure it's staying level, not sinking too much in the middle, evening it all out. Using this oxy propane torch to do that, and Doug is just getting more and more small buckets of lead by hand from the bottom of the pot now and just tipping them into it here. So it's actually nearly 11 o'clock at night now, and we've been working for I think 10 days solid since our last day off. When we had a good talk about it all and everyone decided, they're feeling good, no one's too tired, we're feeling calm, we're ready to do it. We had some pizza earlier, and everyone said if it takes till 2 in the morning, we're here for it. So we just went for it, and turned out really well. I think we got another maybe an hour of working the top as it starts to cool, and then we'll probably open a few beers and just sit around it and look at it for a bit.
Yeah, I think we're there, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Bro, you can do it. Just don't drop it.
There it is.
All right, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
To a solid keel.
Great work all round.
Hell yeah. Same.
An even keel, huh?
Yes.
An even keel. Man, it's crazy. We went from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour, like
Yeah, you were like,
right in a second. We hit that critical moment when we started getting cheese curds around the edge, where Doug was just like, all right, we're pouring like right now. Leo was like, can I get 5 minutes? No.
No, it was perfect. I mean, the keel came first. I was just,
Right.
I should have been ready before.
at least you didn't do all that and then have Leo ask you to do it again for the
Yeah, that happens sometimes. What's your whistle?
Wait.
Hold on. Wait, Doug, hey! We're talking about this. He's doing it right now.
No, I thought it to stop.
Chris on the job. Well, we did manage to pull this off. We have a mold full of solidified lead, which was the goal, and we managed to pull it off in what I consider a very reasonable time frame. For me, there were a lot of unknowns. Even though I've poured a lot of keels for a lot of years, there were a lot of things about it that were brand new for me. I'm really, really pleased, and we did it with no major mishaps. Precautions were taken. I'm really proud of this group and what we've pulled off. It was big. It was a real challenge, and we met it.
Thanks so much for being a part of the project.
Well,
I really appreciate it.
So you're most welcome. Certainly a joy for me. It's the first time in my fairly lengthy career I've had an opportunity to share with people who truly appreciate what's involved and pass on some of the stuff I learned over all these years. So, yeah.
So we have a new ballast keel, or a repoured, repurposed ballast keel, and I'm overjoyed. I'm so pleased that it went so well, and it's a huge step in the process of this rebuild. So I'm extremely grateful to Doug for coming up here and bringing so much knowledge, so much skill, wisdom, and working really hard with us and teaching us so much. He made it possible to do this. And I'm also so grateful to all you guys out there for watching these videos and literally making this whole project possible through sharing them, through becoming patrons, through donating and supporting the project in all sorts of different ways. This project is literally fully funded and made possible by people watching these YouTube videos, which still just absolutely blows me away every day. So thank you so much. Now we're all going to have a few days off because we had some pretty late nights, a lot of late nights working on this, getting ready for this pour, and last night after the pour we were up till I think 1 a.m. Before we left the workshop, getting everything cleaned up and safe before we left. So we're going to have a few days off, but we'll be back very soon to pull that big chunk of lead out of the mold and have a look at it. So we'll see you then.